and I won't be. I promise I won't be showing you. So, and if but I do wanna let you know that. Okay, sounds good. So let me pick up where I was about to pick up. So what do we know about HTML? Like what here? Let me actually share my screen. Um, so what do you guys actually know about HTML? I'm pulling up this site because this is the one that I've written, so I know the most about it. Does anybody know what HTML is, or what HTML stands for?
It's not a language, is it? It's
Well, it's that's a good that ooh start off on a hard one. I mean, so do you know what it stands for?
Hypertext markup language?
Yes.
oh, it's a language. Okay.
Well,
Completely random.
so a lot of coders would say it's not a language, right? So um, there comes into these definitional questions and philosophical questions of what a language is, right? But because like why are things called languages in computer science? Like, does anybody know why languages are called like JavaScript is called a language in computer science, or any language is called a language in computer science?
Um, because
I'm listening.
uh,
Well, so what do human languages do? If you speak Italian, if you're living in Italy and you speak Italian, what does that language enable you to do?
to understand, communicate with
Exactly.
others.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you off. Exactly. They allow us to communicate, and they're almost necessarily like foreign languages, like because not really. I mean, I shouldn't. That's maybe taking the analogy too far, but the language, what it does is it allows us to communicate with the computer. It allows us to say to the computer, I want you to do this. And this is your instructions. Computers are excellent in particular at following instructions. And so we can communicate with the computer via languages. And so the reason HTML is kind of like sometimes like, is this a language? Is it not a language? Like a lot of developers would be like, it's not really a language, is because what HTML does is tells the computer in a language style, this is what I want a website to look like. I want it to be. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want it to be. I want it to have a red bar up here. I want this text to be here in the middle. I want next to the Passion Class text. I want there to be this logo here. I want there to be an input box where I can search for programming classes. Blah blah blah. So that's what HTML does. HTML specifically, the specific use of the HTML language is to tell your computer what websites look like. That's what HTML does. There's other languages. A lot of other languages are kind of richer, or in the sense that you can tell your computer, okay, do these calculations on these numbers. Help me. I mean, basically, it's primarily about computation, right? And this is much more about like visual, how this should render visually. So that's what HTML is. Does that make sense? Are there any questions on that? So
When you say tell the computer what websites look like, what?
So let's look at that right now. So let me start by showing you a secret. So a couple things. If you guys want to do this live with me, you're about to go live on the coding. But even if you want to do this part and you have like some space on your screen, feel free. If you open any website, even on the website we're on right now, you can right-hand click. Actually, let me move you over here. I actually am going to put you guys here, and then I will just blur you out. Okay. So on this website right here, for example, this is where we are right now. So this website, all websites, every single website in the world is comprised of HTML necessarily. It is the only thing you need for a website. Now, what a website is, when I say a website, we are in what's called the browser. My current browser is Firefox, but you have Chrome, you have Safari, you have Opera, you have other things, and these browsers, there is an organization that comes together and says, okay, when we write this code, this is how we expect it to render. And so we know pretty much whether you open this web page on Firefox or Chrome or Safari, it should render in the same way. It should look identical. So to all other websites. Not all other websites. To all, regardless of which, it should look the same as the same website in all other browsers, right? So if I open it in Firefox or Chrome, the website should look the same. Now that doesn't always happen, right? We do get bugs that are specific because different, each company tries to, or each organization tries to build. Mozilla is like 50. What is that called? It's a nonprofit, 501c3, 50c3, something like that. 503c. There we go. Organization, and so but in theory they should all look the same. But people write their code in different ways, and so in the real world, you can get website-specific bugs. But in theory, HTML should render the same on all websites, and the browser is the thing that allows us to browse websites, right? It allows us to render the HTML as we expect. So if you're in a browser, to come to, I gotta check your name again. Amanda's question. And MEP, what was your name? You told me.
Maria.
Maria, got it. Okay. Okay. So so to answer Amanda's question, if you click on your browser and right-hand click, you will see So what I did is I right-hand clicked and then I clicked inspect. When you inspect, you actually get what this is called the inspector, which makes sense, right? And this contains kind of stuff that developers use. It gives me all this information that a developer would use. So one thing it does, for example, is you can see all the network calls. A network call is a call to a different website. So when you load a website, a ton of websites, 99.9% of websites are going to call multiple other websites. So this one, for example, calls some other websites to pull these images. So this image right here is not stored exactly in the exact same location as this code, blah, blah, blah. That's not super important. But like a lot of websites will call Google to download fonts. A lot of websites will call other websites to get images. Another thing is like if you also when you're on the website, it continues to communicate with the back end. That's getting a little too advanced. We don't have to super worry about that. But so like this inspector just gives you a bunch of code. And to go to Amanda's point, if we look here, this here is the HTML of the website. So I'm going to show you a couple things. Why is this not body style? Why is there not? Here we go. I missaw it. Okay. So for example, this is not very readable now, but we will see it we will look at it in an easier form in just a minute. You have different elements in the website that correspond to different parts of the web page. So HTML, actually let me switch over. I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint and explain this there.
Where do you click on which part do you right click on?
Anywhere.
In the body?
Yeah, in the body, that'll work. And then inspect. What browser are you on?
Edge.
Yeah, it should be there. So if you right-hand click, you should see inspect or something like that. Do you see that option? You want to read me your options when you right-hand click?
Edit background, view background.
Okay, no, so try it. Okay, don't click. Maybe it's. Did you click in here? No, but click anywhere. Click, for example, up here. This follow us on. You can highlight this text and press inspect.
Do you mean open up a new tab or just stay within this?
In this tab, it'll work just fine too. So watch inspect.
Oh,
Boom.
sorry, I found it. Yeah, I found it.
Okay, cool. So.
Joe,
yes.
Is it the same process? Is it the same process for Macs or Linux?
It should be. It should be because it's specific to the browser. So it should be the true on Mac, Linux, and Windows. I am 98% certain of that. I could be mistaken, but is it opening for you?
Yeah, Joe.
Okay.
It will open.
Okay, good. The only one, so I know Safari by default doesn't actually. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. I'm gonna close that. That was loud. I know that Safari by default actually doesn't allow or doesn't display that inspect, and you have to change it in the preferences. So if you're on Safari, you can change it in the preferences or just try a different browser. You could ask ChatGPT how to do that. I can't quite recall, but yeah, you can get it. You should be able to get it on any browser. Okay, and what I want to show you now is HTML. Okay, so how a web page essentially is built. So this is just an example comparing to the Passion Class homepage, right? Can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this Passion Class homepage, let me close out of this. What we see here is essentially how I built this is I have 4 key major elements. The 4, I kind of call them base level elements. So the first element is like this header up here. Okay, so this red header. And then I've got the page body, which is obviously the largest part of the page, right? So you've got a page body, which is all this. Then I have 2 things. Then I have a footer, which is this. I call this footer 1, which is basically starting at this line right here. And then I have footer 2. Oops, shoot. And then I have footer 2, which is this little Passion Class 2025 thing at the bottom. And the reason I have it structured that way, just kind of throwing that out here so this makes a little more sense, is if I click on any of these pages, if I click on this Dutch class, for example, 3 of those 4 elements stay the same. So this header doesn't change, this body does change, this footer doesn't change, footer 1 doesn't change, and footer 2 doesn't change. So that's why I kind of have it grouped at that level, so that, when I change, I only switch out 1 element. Obviously the body is the thing with the most, but so when we look at this web page, you kind of have to think of the web page in those structured elements. So with the blue background being our web page, you can think of the header as kind of this element up here, the body here, and then footer 1 and footer 2. Okay, and what that ends up looking like, HTML is essentially like a pyramid. Everything starts from a single element. So in this case, we're calling it the page element. Actually, it's really technically called the body element usually, but no, it doesn't have to be. So you start with a root element, and all of the things branch off that. So it's kind of like if I'm building something on a table, everything's on the table, and then I have to stack things on top of. I stack things on top of them so they get progressively smaller, and I'll show you how that looks in just 1 second. But basically, the base of the pyramid, I don't know if you want to call it the base of the pyramid or the top of the pyramid, is 1 element, which is the root element essentially, and it branches in my page into 4 elements. It branches in that header, body, footer 1, and footer 2. Then each of these elements continue to branch, right? So I'm going to do the example of the header. So the header is not just a red bar, but it actually has different elements in it. So it's got this logo element, it's got this title and the subtitle, it's got a languages menu, it's got a currency menu, and it's got, I don't know what you want to call this, a full page menu. You can see you can learn about other things going on. So that's the header. So we've got, and how I actually have it structured, if I'm remembering right, I can't even remember, logo title. Oh no, okay, so this is how I said I did it. So I've got a logo element here, then I've got a title element, which actually this title element contains 2 things. It contains a title and a subtitle. Then I have a language menu, a currency menu, and a full page menu. So just like that, just like the page contained 4 elements, my header contains 5 elements. And in the same way, the body contains a bunch of elements. The body's going to contain literally everything you see in here, right? Then the footer 1 obviously contains all of these elements. That's okay. And footer 1 contains all these elements, and footer 2 contains just one element, this text here. Okay, does that broadly make sense? Are there any questions on this so far? Maria, how are you doing?
Okay, it sounds good. Maybe some of this I've heard 20 years ago, but it seems vaguely familiar. Yes.
Good, great. Because HTML has not changed that much in the last 20 years. Robbie, how are you doing?
Yeah, Joe, I'm getting whatever you're saying.
Okay, great. Okay, sounds good. Then we will keep going. We will keep going forward. So that's the logic. So again, here you're only seeing here how this is structured is showing page broken into 4 elements, and then the header is broken into different elements. Of course, the body is broken into a lot more than 5 elements. The footer 1 is broken into I don't know how many elements. Footer 2 actually just contains 1 element. Blah blah blah. So if you looked at this, but it kind of builds out like a pyramid. We got that base element, and then layer 1 and layer 2, or it's just like if I were building a set of what are those called, like card? I don't really like card, the analogy of a house of cards, because the analogy kind of implies that all the elements are the same. But you would basically have cards go on top of cards, go on top of cards, and that's kind of it's kind of the same way in HTML. And again, these things can go infinitely deep, right? Because so I have the header. So one thing I do have is one example is I actually have this title area. What this actually is a box. You can see that these 2 elements, this title and this subtitle, Passion Class Real People Always Live, they are centered within that box. So there's actually an invisible box here, an invisible rectangle here, and they're both centered in that. So rather than saying logo title, it should really be like logo box, and I'll even make that change right now. It's really like you got logo title box, and then that title box has 2 elements. It has a title and a subtitle, and that's so I think then if there's no questions, I will move on from here. But I do want to start there because it's actually really crucial to understand that HTML is kind of built in this like pyramid style structure. We have a base layer, and you just layer things on top of it. Or it's kind of like, did you guys ever have those? I'm just thinking of this analogy right now. When I did, my math teacher in high school she used to like write on clear pieces of plastic, and then layer plastic on top, and then she'd write on one, and she could take one a layer off, blah blah blah. It's kind of like that. She used a projector. Anyways, so that's how that works. Okay, so what I want to do now actually is switch over and have you guys do a little HTML yourselves. So I'm putting a link in the chat. And if you open that up, you will hopefully see a website that looks pretty close to how the website looks that I'm sharing right now. Are you guys there?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
See, onecompiler.com HTML.
That's it. And so it'll say click run to see output. So we can click run and you'll see the output. Okay. Does anybody look at this? I'd love to actually just get your guys' initial comments. What are your thoughts as you look at this? Any initial comments, observations? What do you think? What do you notice? Amanda, what can you notice here?
In what? You mean, well, it doesn't make sense.
Okay. Well, okay, so let me ask it this way. So do you notice any correspondence between what is rendered and what the code that the HTML that causes it to render.
It looks like there are certain rules.
Okay, well let's start even more basic, right? So like we have here this text here. Do you notice a corresponding element on this side that reminds you of this text?
On the left?
Yes. So does yours say hello world?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here, for example, we have hello world that appears 2 times, right? So we have hello world once here, and we have hello world once here.
Yeah.
So which of these do you guys think corresponds to this text over here?
The hello world written within the H1 tag.
Okay, written within the H1 tag. And why do you think that, Robbie? Maria, do you have a guess? Do you agree with Robbie? Do you disagree that it's this hello world is corresponding to this one versus this one?
I have a slightly different view because unfortunately I'm using Chrome.
Okay. Can you get it to open?
Yeah, I got it to open. Let me just take one more look at this. Title. I agree because it actually says in line 4 that it is the title.
Oh. Okay.
Which I assume means it's the title of the document?
Uh-huh. That's true.
Or the section of the document. Link, style sheet, style CSS.
That you can't understand yet. I'll explain that shortly.
Yeah, no, head, body, and then
Right.
class,
So
H1, etc.
So I agree with Robbie. Robbie, one other thing I wanted to point out here. This is a super small thing, but as a computer scientist, I can tell you this stuff matters so much. You'll notice it may seem small to you, but it's something that I notice instantly. And
Come on.
Yep. You have a question, Amanda?
Oh no, I was just going to say the comma after the first hello.
Yes, exactly right. So there's no comma here. So this one, this definitely corresponds with this. And Robbie, I have a suspicion, knows enough HTML to know this corresponds here. So one thing I want to point out here is that we have an H1 tag here. So these are called tags, these things between the carets. I always call those carets. I think most people call them carets. So this is a caret, this is an open caret, this is a closed caret, open caret, closed caret. And this is an open tag, and this is a closed tag. So what do you think these, like, Robbie, what can you tell me about these tags?
Joe, yeah, as you said, that is correct. The opening of H1 tag and then closing of H1 tag.
Yeah. So one thing about these tags, one thing to notice is that there's always 2, right? So we have an H1 tag here, we have an H1 tag here. We have a title tag here, we have a title tag here. We have a head tag here, we have a second head tag here. Body tag, script. So each tag has an opening tag, or each element has an opening tag and a closing tag. So that's how you know you have an HTML element. An element is basically a thing, right? So an element of this web page, this element has an opening tag and a close tag. And how can we tell, Robbie, how can I tell that this one is an opening tag? And not a close tag.
Yeah, I will say that in the closing tag, there is a difference between the opening and the closing tag.
Which is?
That is forward slash.
Exactly. Very good. So the closing tag, this says I'm a closing tag because you've got this backslash here. So this is a closing tag for an H1, and this is an opening tag for an H1. So that's how you know which one's which. The other thing is, as you can see, you may notice that in the opening tag you can add extra information, which we'll come back to. But you can see this says class title. I'm going to take this away, and you're going to see this is going to look a little different over here in a second. So if I get rid of that information, it looks a little different. It's now not colored, but so you can add extra information to opening tags. The closing tag is always just a closing tag. Sorry, was there something you were going to say, Robbie? No? Okay.
No.
Okay, sounds good. So this already has there's a couple things. So Amanda pointed out, I think it was Amanda, maybe it was Maria, pointed out this tag here. There's a style sheet, and it's called style set CSS. Robbie, what can you tell us about this? I know you mentioned you knew something about CSS.
Yeah. Basically, when we do a project using HTML and CSS, there are the two files. One is HTML and another one is for CSS. To link those two files in between, that is basically the link syntax for CSS.
Very good. And now a question. What does CSS mean, or what does CSS, one, stand for, but two, what does it actually do?
CSS is basically used to style the design.
Right. Okay, very good, Robbie. Excellent. So what Robbie just said is the CSS stands for Cascading Styling Sheets. So I'm going to flip over the CSS file right here. Cascading Styling Sheets. I don't know how they came up with that name. But what it does is it essentially styles the HTML. So the HTML, if we look again at our structure here, the HTML is basically this structure. It's the architecture of our website. We say, like, we want to have a header first, and then a main body, and then a footer, and then a second footer. And in that header, we want there to be a logo, and then a title box, and then a language menu, and then a currency menu, and then a menu. So it just lays out that structure. What the CSS does is it styles it. What the CSS does is it styles it. So for example, here we see title should have a color of this crazy number, which is actually a hexadecimal. So if you actually just Google this hexadecimal, you should see the number right away. So this color corresponds to this color right here. There's another. If you don't want to learn about hexadecimals yet, you can just plug in different. Number combos here, and there you have to be 6 numbers long, 3 or 6 numbers long, and it'll look different. So you plug in different 6 numbers, and it looks different. And then let me try 44444.
000.
So yeah, so you just get different colors depending on what you plug in. But the other option you have always is there are like 16 or something like that colors that it just knows. So red is one of them. Green is one of them. Then what the hexadecimals allow you to do is like refine your shade of red, for example. So you can see this blue is not the same as the blue that if I just plug in blue, it's a little bluer. Blah blah blah. So that's kind of the idea there. But so that's what CSS does. It allows us to style our web page. Another thing it can do, for example, so here we have the color. You could say font size. Like these are commands you learn with time, but I could say font size 48px. So now the font's bigger, for example. So I can, it comes with some defaults. If you don't specify, it'll use the default font size. But if I do specify, boom, it's bigger. If I want it to be even bigger, I can say make it 90. Boom, it's huge. So there's different things you can do there. You could also specify, for example, the body. It said padding has 25 px. Padding is this space here. You see how it doesn't start at the left-hand side? Let me get rid of that. And it should start much closer to the left-hand side. Now, it doesn't start all the way to the left-hand side because, as we mentioned, there are defaults. It comes with defaults. So when I don't specify anything, it will use the default. So it has some, but now the padding's larger. Another thing I could do is I could say background color and make it, let's just have some fun with hexadecimals. I don't know what this is going to do, but we will see how this looks. So now I specified the background color of the body element to be whatever the shade of green is, for example. So that's what CSS does. Okay, is that clear? Are there any questions? Amanda, how are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Can you see me?
I can't see you, no, but I can flip over to you. How are you doing?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, not bad. But where does the 6A C45C? What?
So this is a hexadecimal. You don't really have to worry about that. So what you can do, if you want to get these numbers, you can just plug them in. So it's literally a combo of 6 letters and numbers, and you can see if you just Google it, it should come right up where it says hex. This corresponds to this color. If you click on that, if you come on Google and you Google one of these hexadecimals, and you can always just start with 0000000, right? Actually, that might not work. Yeah, so that's just black, and then you click on that color.
Okay.
You say, what is the exact color I want? I want it to be green. I want it to be bluish, and I like this shade with this amount of black, or this amount of black, or this this amount of white, blah blah. And you figure out the exact one you want, and then you can just copy and paste it right out of here. So now if I copy and paste it right out of here, right into this, boom. Now it should be this background color, which is the same as this color here. So Google comes with and I'm on DuckDuckGo, but it comes with a color picker, so you can figure out what you want, and then it'll translate that to you to hexadecimal, which is just a way that the machine knows what this color corresponds to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and again, so I can do that for the background color, but alternatively, I could do that for the font color, like however we wanted to do it. And what these do, what do these things do that I just added here? Does anybody know? These are what are called comments. So in computer science, this is not actually what they're designed for. There's different languages have different ways to comment. This is what it looks like in CSS, Cascading Styling Sheets. It's a /*//, so what's inside of these is a comment. It's really so I can make notes for myself. I can say, this color is a hexadecimal. I don't know if it's hexa or hexa. It's something metric. I don't know if it's hexa or hexa. That's okay. Hexadecimal. I think it's hexadecimal. Color. And then basically what this is like, copy and paste into Google. And the idea of a comment is when I come back and look at my own code later, I'm not going to remember what that is. I can write myself a comment in the middle of the code, and the computer knows, don't process the stuff between these opening and closing comment tags. Don't process it, because if I took these away, the computer would try to process this line of code because it's in the middle of my code, and it's going to fail. It doesn't actually fail because it's CSS here, but it would. The computer would be like, what the heck is this? And it won't work. So these comments allow me to write English to myself in the middle of my code. So when I read this code later, I know what I'm doing. Okay, sounds good. So like Robbie said, so this is a smaller point. Like Robbie said, this here you don't have to learn to write this. This is pretty much always a copy and paste in. Like this literally says we have a sheet that we called styles.css. This links the styles.css to this HTML file. Because basically, if I linked a different styles.css, if I call it styles1, oops, now the stuff that we wrote in styles.css is not linked until I rename it and call this one styles1. Now styles1 and styles1 match up, and I run, and now we're pulling the code from this one again too. So I can pull it from multiple files, blah, 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 however I want to structure it. That's not so important for our purposes right now. The one thing I am going to get rid of is we do have some JavaScript here. I'll show you that. I'm just going to comment on it before I delete it. Is this JavaScript? So websites are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So the big architecture is HTML. CSS is the styling. So colors, size, things like that. And then JavaScript is anything interactive. So in this case, the web page is, or dynamic. I don't know, it doesn't have to just be interactive. It's anything dynamic. So this is dynamic because the time is continually changing. Oh, look, we're even using British time, Amanda, if I'm not mistaken. So this website is, or excuse me, this is using, this is changing every single second. And so there's a file here, which we're not going to worry about. This is saying update the time every 1,000 milliseconds, aka every second. And that's what that does here. But we're not actually going to worry about the JavaScript for today. So I'm actually going to delete out of it. So I'm going to delete this, and then the current time is just going to be blank. I'm going to instead change this from current time and say and Robbie, oops, I think I misspoke it. Robbie and Amanda and Maria. So now if I run this, now I get this text here on my website. Okay. So it sounds like we're doing good here. I'm not trying to overtalk. If there's any questions, now's a good time, or interrupt me, or. Okay. So couple of things. The head is a little less interesting. This contains, so like I believe Maria correctly said, now the title of this webpage is Hello World. This webpage is not fully open in the browser, but the title of this webpage is whatever this says, HTML1 compiler. The title of this webpage is Color Picker at DuckDuckGo. So if this were a webpage and we opened it in a browser here, that's what this title corresponds to. It corresponds to the text that comes up here in your tabs. So I want to show you a couple of elements here. So what I think for day one HTML, because HTML is something that you can learn in a day and start building like a real website if you want. You have a couple of important elements. So the first element was the H1. Robbie, tell us what the H1 does or means. Do you know?
Joe, I think H1 is for heading purpose.
Say that again?
H1 is for heading of the subject.
Exactly. So H1 corresponds to, I think it's called header. I don't think it's heading, but it's the same idea. I might be mistaken. I'm pretty sure H1 stands for header 1. So header 1 essentially means it should be the biggest. Now, is it crucial for our visualizations that they correspond to H1 and H2 and blah, blah, blah? Not really, because we can style them however we want here. However, the reason they are important is that like Google studies your website according to this title. So you should have like one H1, and this is like the big title. Ooh, not Bible title. That was weird. The big title of our webpage. And so your H1 is usually in your the big title, and then you have sections. So they continue on. You can have like a header 2, and this would be like section title. So I need to 2, 3, blah blah blah. So now I've got a web page with one title and 3 section titles, you can see by default the default sizes are that your H1 is biggest, and your H2s are a little smaller, but they're still bigger than your text, right? So this is just the built-in defaults. Again, you can adjust all of this. I can say my H2 elements in my CSS. I say my H2 elements, open squiggle, close squiggle. I can say the font size, just like on the other one, I can make it 30px. It's probably actually close to 30px now. Oh no, so it's a little bigger. Or I can make it small. I can make them tiny if I wanted. And now the H2s are tiny. So that's how that works. Okay, so
sorry, if that's the main header, why is the code like not at the very top?
So good question. So this header section, so by the way, you actually could, if you wanted, you could put this later. The head and body elements you can kind of put in any order. It doesn't really matter. So that's possible. But let's actually take it. So I'm glad you asked that question. So let me comment on this a couple of things. So the head is what's called metadata. Does anybody know what metadata means?
No.
Oh, okay. Maria, have you heard of the word metadata before?
Yes, because I worked in graphics for television.
Okay.
Embedded or hidden data that was not obvious.
Exactly. So metadata. So if I send you an analogy of metadata, what we think of as metadata. So that Maria described it beautifully right there. So, but like a more practical example is if I'm sending you a letter. If I'm sending a letter to Maria, and I write her a letter. This is obviously not digital, but we can, an email would kind of have the same idea. Then what I really want to tell her is I'm gonna write a letter and print it out, and I'm gonna put that letter in an envelope, and it's gonna send to her. Now the metadata are gonna be things like the return address, the address that I'm sending it to, maybe the cost of the postage stamp, something like that. So these are all pieces of information that come along that don't necessarily visualize for the user. The same, on a web, that's maybe not the best example because obviously you see all that when you get the envelope and you kind of examine it. But when you go to a website, for example, this title, this is kind of metadata that we don't really, most of the time we don't really look at this title up here. It's going to have a little link to the icon image. Like you see how this has an icon image here, this one has an icon image here. Passion Class, I got to show you now, has this guy is my little icon up here. These images would also be included. Those are called favicons. Those are included in the metadata. What else? You can have things like you can have a page description. You can have keywords where you tell Google this is what I should show up for. So this head, if I delete this block, I'm actually going to comment it out, pretend that it's things I wrote myself, which is maybe I'm showing you bad practice right off the bat. But no, it did link the style sheet. That's true. Actually, that was important. But so I was going to say, if I delete this title, for example, most of the things in the metadata, it will render the exact same way. One thing that is important is that it does link to this style sheet correctly. So, but this is not really the structure of our web page, right? This is metadata, kind of high level information that is important that the computer receives to know. Okay, this links to the style sheet, blah blah blah. But it's not really the structure of our web page. So that's what usually we put in the head section. Then the body of the web page is what actually renders. So the body of the web page actually renders. So this stuff, the body actually all renders. So we can see here, H1, big title of our web page, this stuff renders. H2, this title, this rendered. So that's the body. It all renders. So but just like Amanda pointed out, it does go top to bottom. So 100% correctly, like this needs to come first and then it continues downward. If I switch the order of these, of course, on our web page, the order will also be switched. Now 3 is prior to 2. Yeah. So that's kind of the things I wanted to show there. Let me get rid of this and make these render a little bigger. Okay. The next thing I want to show you. So we've now seen two element types. We've seen an H1 and H2. They continue all the way down to H6. So you can have a website that has my website, subheaders. Each of those headers can have subheaders. H6 is pretty rare, but you can get down to H6. And then you've got this P. What do you think this P stands for? Has anybody got a guess? It's a word that starts with P.
So P I think P for paragraph.
Yes, exactly right. So P is paragraph. So in 1995, and still plenty today, when you go to a website, so when you go to a website, you probably want to write some text here. So you're gonna have your title, then you're gonna have your subheaders, and then you're gonna have some text that you want to write. And like I can even say, like, let's ask ChatGPT, write me a paragraph about why I like Maria, Robbie, and Amanda. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is kind of weird, but that's fine. We're doing this. So why I like them. So now I can put here so inside my paragraph tag, boom. Now we've got the paragraph that contains the information, and that's all in our that's all in our paragraph tags. So I hope that makes sense. Oh, and look at this. I didn't even. Oh no, it doesn't. Okay. So that's kind of this information. Another thing that's really important, in addition to these elements, to get started, is what's called the div tag. Robbie, do you know what a div stands for?
Yeah, actually, group, and div is used to gather same type of elements.
Right. Maria or Amanda, I'd be surprised if you knew, but is there any chance you guys know what the div is for?
I think I did know, but I've forgotten.
Okay. Maria, any thoughts?
That's one that I've not heard of.
Okay, sounds good. No worries. So, div is short for divider. I wish they would have just called it box, because I think of it just as a box. So essentially, what I can tell you is that, like, now, what I can write some styling right into here rather than switching to our CSS. So I can say, style background color is green. Actually, I'm not gonna like this green. Let's pick a nicer color. Let's come back to our green and pick, this is nicer. So background color is this, where are we? Background color is this hexadecimal. So now we run this. So now we have this green background here. And I want to contrast this to, I'm going to put the background color back in the body. Background color in the body of, first of all, we're going to make this one like this. And we're going to make this one darker. So it's very legible. Okay, so now let me run this. So what have I done? I've added a background color to the body, which is this blue color. This background color to the body is this blue color. I've changed the color of our headers to this dark blue color. And the other thing I've done, I could have done this in the styling sheet. You can also do it directly in HTML. For the div, I added a background color to the div of this green, okay? So I think the reason I did this is I think it effectively shows us where the div starts and ends, right? So this div is now a box. I think of a div as a box, and the div is basically exactly around the elements we've specified right here. So it's around our H1, which starts here, through the end of this paragraph. Okay, through the end of this paragraph right here. Okay, so what is and you can see that, right? Because now we have this green background. So what is going to happen if I move this div closing tag from here to here and then press run? What is going to happen?
Yes.
So it was here, it was on line 20, and now I moved to line 16. What's going to happen if I press run?
The color is going to change its location.
Okay, to where? What is the new location going to be?
It's going to be after other people I like.
Okay, so tell me exactly what is going to be after other people I like. Like what part is going to be green, and what part is going to have this light green color?
If I was paying enough attention, then the green itself will stop after other people I like.
Okay, Amanda, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
I agree
So
too.
it's going to be blue after.
Exactly. So that sounds good. So now what we've done is we have shrunk our box to just contain these elements. So now we still have a box here, but this box now just contains these elements, and it no longer contains these elements. So these elements are actually just contained in the body, right? Because they're the body opening tag, closing tag. So again, so this div, you almost instantly see this structured, the kind of pyramid style structure. We have the base, where bodies are base essentially, and then here we have a box that we layer on top of that base, and then we put these elements in that box. And then what I can do again, if I'd like, is I can put another box that I open here, and I'm going to close it here. So let me make this. I got to make sure I do this formatting good. And I can put another style background color, red. And now Amanda, tell me what this is going to look like now. How is our background color going to look?
So which bit of the code am I looking at?
So what I have just changed since I pressed run is I've added line 13 and 16.
Oh, so that bit that's green is going to be red in the background?
Right, where? Do you know, Maria?
Background color red. After. Okay. Oh dear.
Or Robbie, you want to take a guess real quick?
Joe, I will say that from the line number 13 to 16, its background color will be red.
Right, and so where is that going to correspond to on this page over here?
Okay, the line number from 10 to 19, that background color will be green.
Right. So let's actually run this then. So what we see here is we're going to get a red background that covers up some of this green background. So because so remember, we have a box here. So this is the box that starts essentially. We have the H1. The box starts just before. You can see the opening detail is just before this H1, which contains, this is the H1. So the box starts just before this one, and it ends, here's the close tag for this box with the green background, and it ends just after this H2, which says other people I like. So this box has a green background. This box has a green background. Now what we've done inside of that box, just like another element, or just like this element, we've added another element, which is a box that has a red background, and it contains two elements. It contains the H2, and it contains this paragraph here. So now we've got a red box inside of this green box. We've got a red box inside of this green box. So that's basically, that's why we've got red in the middle of the green. Now, one other thing we can do, I'm going to show you this really quick. I'm going to type in pad, I think it's pad, it might be padding. I think it's pad 5px. It might not work. Let me see if it's padding. No, so it is padding. Okay, now you can even see more clearly. So remember, padding is what we actually saw over here as well. It adds a little space. When you pad something, it means don't start at the very beginning. Give it a little space. We put in a little bit of green. We put in a little space. So basically, what that means is none of the elements inside of the screen box now. None of the elements inside of the screen box start directly at the border. Now there's always a little bit of space in all four directions prior to rendering the other elements here. So there's a little extra, you can see these, now it doesn't start all the way to the left here, it doesn't start all the way to the left here, and in the same way, this red box doesn't start all the way to the left here. So now we've padded this green box, and now you can almost see more clearly that there is just literally a box inside of this green box.
Yeah.
So, okay, sounds good. Are there any questions before I move on to something else?
No.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. The other thing I want to show you is the image tag. So this is an important one. So the one thing I want to actually say before I go further is the div tag is like your best friend. The div tag you can do like anything with. So the div tag you can, I will show you that in just 1 second. So how I wrote here, div style is background color red. So I can either style it directly in the div. The other option I have is I can add a class tag, okay? So a class tag, I'm gonna just call this class red background. That means anything that I name to have this class will be treated in the same way, and then in the CSS I specify what I want that to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this styling. Okay, so all I've done right now is added a class red background. Now if I click run, that red background is going to actually go away because we haven't specified the background yet. But what we have, this box is still here, it's just invisible. This box is still here, this div is still here. Is invisible. Why is it invisible? Because a div is an invisible box unless you specify, like I want the background to be red or something, unless you specify it in some way. So now I've specified this class as a red background. I come over to my styles.css and say red background, because that's how I named this one. It has the hyphen here. You'll notice there's a hyphen here, so it has a hyphen here. So red hyphen background, and then I'm going to leave that same CSS information. Property, so background color is red. So now if I run this should have the red background again, okay? So I want to make a couple quick comments here. This class name is red background, so it corresponds in our styling sheet to this red background property. Because it's a class name, it begins with this period. I'll say that again. Because it's a class name, it begins with this period. If I'm talking about any H1, it doesn't matter what the class name is. Like this has class title, so it begins with a period. Period title. That means anything with class name title. The other option would be I could say any H1 instead of class name title. So I'll get rid of this dot title and just add in any H1. You see there's no period anymore. And now it renders close to the same way, actually. The reason it's a little different is because these H2s also had class titles. So let me actually restore that. Oh, shoot. Wait, what did I just do? So let me restore dot title. Now, anything that has a dot title tag has this blue background color, right? You see that? Anything with this dot title, or anything with this title class name has a blue background color. So let's come over to our index.html. What things have a title class name? The H1, the big title of our webpage, so that's blue. The H2, my favorite students, so that's blue. This other H2 has a class name title, and that's why it's also blue. And then this H2 has a class name title, why I like them, which is why it's also blue. So if I now change this to purple, that updates it for all 4 of them. It updates it for all 4 of them because they all 4 are linked to this title class name. If you see my point there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, sounds good. Now, there don't have to be any questions. Are you guys kind of doing this in parallel? Are you guys coding this up on your side in parallel, kind of?
No. So you know those parentheses type things.
These squiggles here.
Yeah. So you have to use those before you write the.
Yes.
Whatever follows. Yeah.
Exactly right. And the reason for that is because again, you can think of this as an open tag and a close tag. The reason for that is I can write as many different pieces of I can write as many properties as I want in here. So we've said title has this color, but I could also add font size.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is 90. So now these are all going to become huge. But and so it applies to all of them. So what this does. The reason you have this open and close is so that I know I can write as many as I want in there, or as few. And so that's how it knows. Okay, but once we hit this close tag, then it starts applying to title, and here it starts applying to red background, right? So I could say font size here. Now if I write font size here is 90 here, it no longer applies the font size of 90 to all these titles. Instead, it applies it to all this stuff in here. And that's the point of those squiggly backgrounds, so it knows okay, this is the stuff that applies to red background, this is the stuff that applies to title, this is the stuff that applies to body. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is the image tag. So the image tag.
Joe,
yep.
Joe, I have a question. Joe, if in the interview they will ask what is div, then what we will say?
I would say it's a box. It works like a box. Div is a divider, right? That's what it's short for. A div is a divider, and it essentially acts like a box on your HTML page. So here we have a div, or this red thing is a div within a different div. So they're very crucial in the sense that they allow us to divide up our web page. I'll give you an example on Passion Class here really quick. So on Passion Class, we've got this here. I pointed out this is a divider here. You can notice that these are centered. These are both centered within an invisible divider here. These are both centered within an invisible divider here. But a divider is really important because it allows you to do anything that's a block. So for example, I'm sure I've got a divider here. Then I've got this, and then I've got a divider here. Each of these is a divider because it's a box. Each of these is a divider. And then within it, I've got this image, might be an image tag, but you can actually also do it with a divider tag without a problem. This is another divider here. This white space is a divider. Then this gray space is a divider. And then even within here, you're gonna have two dividers, right? You're gonna have something that probably there's a divider right here that pulls this image to the right, and so there's this text on the left and the image on the right, and so you've got a divider here and here as well. So dividers essentially are things that allow you to divs are things that allow you to partition your website. Another example, here you've got a divider from here and here, because this has a different background. Now you've got a divider from here and here. So there's just a ton of dividers are all over web pages. Like, it's, I think, by far the most commonly used element, and like so essential. So because a web page, when you design it, you say, I want it, like, let me click on this course. So this, you've got I don't know if this is done with an image or a divider, but you can think of it as just a divider if you wanted to. You don't even have to ever really use an image tag. You could always use a divider, because you could just specify an image as the divider's background. So you could actually do it without the image tag. So you have a divider here. You have a divider here. This is a different divider. This red thing is a different divider. This image is probably in its own divider. So this is the divider. This box here is the divider. So everything up here, this is a divider. This divider actually stays when you scroll. Blah blah. So the dividers are just like the kind of the building blocks of your web page. So the last thing I want to show you really quick, Robbie, what is your favorite Pokemon?
How do you know he likes Pokemon?
Well, Amanda? What is your favorite Pokemon? He's not answering.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know any of them.
You don't
Pikachu,
know?
is that one?
Yeah. Yes. I was gonna be like, you don't know Pikachu. I was just.
That was just a lucky guess.
I was gonna be like, you gotta know Pikachu. I don't believe you don't know Pikachu. Let me see. I actually want a Pikachu with a transparent background. Let me say transparent, because that'll be fun. Transparent background. Here we go. So now we got a Pikachu with a transparent background. Perfect. So now if I come over here and I put in, oops, why did that not work? Oh, okay, good. So now I will show you this in just 1 second. I hope href is right. No, it's not. Okay, I gotta double check. So one thing you're gonna learn: image tag HTML. Oops, not tag HTML. One of the things, you just Google stuff all the time. When you don't know how it's done, just Google it or ask ChatGPT. Oh, source. See, I typed in href, but it's source. So our image source is this URL for the image I pulled up right here. So I literally opened an image and then I copied and pasted it. I know this is actually an image and not a web page because it ends in .png. So here's an image. So now if I run this, well, now we have this giant Pikachu right on our web page. So one thing about this is a little big, so I'm going to shrink this down. So tell me what you think I'm going to write over here. Or I could do it in here as well. Does anybody have any guesses?
Size?
Yes. Okay, very good. But so that's very good. And you're 100% right about that, actually. But what I'm actually asking is, like, remember, do I need to write a class name? Do I need to use this? Like, what can I write here so I can adjust the image size in my CSS? Like, what do I write? Like, tell me word for word what I'll write in my CSS. I might need to add something in my HTML. I might not. So let's look at the title one again. So we have dot title and then a color, and dot title, squiggle, color, blah blah blah, and that corresponds to this class.
Size.
Say it again.
Size.
Okay, where do I write size?
Okay.
Maria, you have any thoughts?
So, class title, okay, SSHD. Div. Before div?
Okay. Not quite there.
No.
So what is that we're gonna try and do? So what I can do is I can specify a new class that says class equals small image. Okay. So now I've said anything with this class title will correspond to something, or it's gonna, I can write properties in my style.css that correspond to small image. So now here in my style.css I can write dot because it's a class name, and then I can write small image. Oh, sorry, my computer's freezing a second. So dot small image, and then what do I need, Amanda?
Curly brackets. Sorry.
No, Maria, go for it.
Curly brackets.
Curly brackets, very good. Open and close, yep. And now I'll do what you guys said. I actually can't remember the name. It's like HTML div size. I gotta specify. Oh, I know what it is. I was like, what do I write here? So
would it be a pixel?
Exactly. So let's just specify width. You can also specify height, but I'm just gonna do width, and then it should automatically adjust the height. So now I've specified the size. That's even a little big, so we'll make it a little smaller. And boom, just like that, there we've got Pikachu on our webpage. And now we've adjusted his size, calling it small image. So that corresponds to this here. So now we've got a web page. So basically, you already have in this hour and 15 minutes or whatever it's been, the skills that you need to like build a basic web page. Now, obviously, this isn't that beautiful because my goal was not to make it beautiful. But if you made these colors better, if you adjusted the font size and add whatever information you want, you're writing web pages today. Like, you're writing web pages at the level that you're at right now. And then there's other things like, as you say, like, oh, well, how do I make it? I want to change this font. Then what do? You Google, how do I change the font in HTML? And you Google that, and you'll get that information. But you already have the basic structure of HTML, and you can make a web page of this quality right now. And if you kind of adjust the font and these divs, it can look even better. Yes, Robbie.
Yeah, Joe, I was asking that here the width was given 250 pixel. That's why it comes within that div. But if I increase the width just like 500 pixel or 600 pixel, it will just overflow that div. So if I give more width, then how can we manage that image with the div?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So there's things that you can. So again, that's something that you Google, right? But what you could do is say, I think it's overflow. You can say overflow hide or hidden. Overflow hidden. So now here, boom, now it's cut off. So that's one option. There's various options for overflow, and I can't actually remember what they all are. So HTML overflow options. And then you can see what they are. I think there's a scroll one. Visible, so that the default is probably visible. Yep, so that's what it was. It was visible by default. Another option is scroll. So now our div's too big, but what I can do, instead of it being hidden, I can scroll within this div. So there's 4 options there. There's all sorts of solutions, because sometimes you want things to look bigger on desktop and bigger on or smaller on mobile and bigger on desktop. What I will tell you is this is more advanced. I don't expect you to be there today at all, and you don't have to be either. Like, this is a great place to start. But if you Google Bootstrap, that is a package that I like. It's easy. You can just Google it. Bootstrap is great for managing HTML in desktop versus mobile. So you say, I want my image to be big on desktop and small on mobile. how do I want to deal with it? Bootstrap, that takes, that'll take you another 3-4 hours to learn. But that's also something that you can do. Any other questions? Okay, great. So you guys were great. Thank you so much. So I want to say a couple things. So first of all, I appreciate it. This was fun. This was a great group. I hope you guys learned something. I will share this code. If you will share your email addresses, I can email you this code immediately. The second thing I want to say is so then you'll have the indexed HTML and CSS if you guys want to take a look and do it yourself. Copy my code. You can feel free and then use it and edit it and blah, blah, blah. The next thing I want to say is if you had a good time, so join me for other classes. So I'm on Passion Class. My email is joe@passionclass.co, joe@passionclass.co. It even rhymes. It's not .com, it's .co, so joe@passionclass.co. I will write that in the chat. And I offer, this is a part of, I see your comment now, Maria. I offer a rotating set of 4 free sample classes. So this is one of them. This is the one on HTML. I also do one on just JavaScript. So that's kind of like a beginner's coding. I do one on what else do I do? I can't even remember right now. What are the other ones? The JavaScript.
What's the next step up from this? Like, what would you learn next if you were trying to kind of develop?
So what I would first of all develop upon this. So build a website that you want to build, master, because these skills, like you've seen this, but there's more you can do, but this is really the foundation. But just like anything, it's like a language. Like you can say in Spanish right now, you can almost already get around and ask for the bathroom and order something off the menu. You're at that level already. If you want to make circles instead of boxes right now, you'll have to Google how that happens, right? So I would say build on your HTML, and the other thing I would say is come to my class come to all my free sample classes. Like, why not, right? That's why I offer them. So you can, if you're interested, you can see what you like, what you don't like. I do one programming for complete beginners, which is actually using JavaScript, which is nobody in the world is going to be like, that's not a real coding language. Like some people will be like, HTML, it's too easy. It's not a real coding language. But this is great for a lot of people. I mean, and we need people who do this, right? So that's what I would say is come to my other coding classes. The JavaScript one in particular is like a real intro to computer science. It's just like this. It's an hour and a half. But you come out being able to do some stuff. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay.
But Joe, can we get the screen recording of this session?
Say that again?
Can we get the screen recording of this session?
You absolutely can, yes. I need you to send me an email for that, or can you write your email in the chat? If you write your email in the chat, I will send it to you. I will